Welcome to today's episode of the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. It's Monday, June 9th. Last podcast, we reviewed Netflix's Department Q, which took place in Edinburgh, Scotland. Coincidentally, Edinburgh, Scotland happens to be right around where golf was invented way back in the 15th century. Now, golf is a weird sport. I can tell you,
15th century?
yeah, the 1400s.
I didn't know that golf was around back then.
Back then, they used to use feathers and leather for golf balls. Like, they would really pack them in tight. And it was banned, actually, in Scotland 3 times over its, few hundred years because of it interfering with military training. These guys were supposed to be doing archery, but they got distracted with golf. And the third fact I'll give you for free is that back in 1975, during the Western Open, I don't even know all the Opens out there. There's the U.S. Open, there's the Masters.
Waste Management Open.
The Waste Management Open. There were 3 dudes, though, 3 golfers, all hit with the same bolt of lightning. It reflected off of a lake and hit the dudes. And, none of them were seriously injured, but I think one of them, did not play that tournament again. And that got me interested in, what other sports, what would be the least likely sport to get zapped by lightning? I'm not including, chess or anything like that, or cheerleading,
right,
when it's indoors.
You're talking about, outdoors.
MLB, Ray Caldwell, was struck by lightning while pitching for the Cleveland Indians back in 1919, before they were the Guardians. He was making his debut in the 9th inning, which just means he was the closer, when the lightning struck him. Caldwell was knocked unconscious for a few minutes, and hear this, but after he was revived, he finished the game.
Did he win it? I mean,
I don't know if he won the game, but it doesn't even say if it's the bottom of the 9th or not. But that was back in the day when men were men, you know? You get struck by lightning, you finish that baseball game. No, okay, so here's a trivia game for golf, right? I've got 4 different golf facts. Do you have the same trivia game for me?
I have the same trivia game, yeah.
Do you want to do them at the same time? That'd be fun.
Sure, okay.
Okay, so the longest putt ever televised, you know this?
No.
Okay, the longest, I'm going to give you four trivia facts, and one of them is going to be fake.
Okay.
Okay, the longest putt ever televised live was 159 feet and hit by Michael Phelps. The longest drive in competition was shot by a 64-year-old man. Golf was the only sport that has ever been played outside of Earth. And then the last one is one of the main reasons that Bill Burr left, or says he left New York and went to L.A. was because of golf.
And I have to find the
one
fake
of them is fake. So it's either that Michael Phelps, the famous swimmer, has hit the longest putt that was ever televised live. The longest drive being by a 64-year-old man, and it was being the only sport that's ever been played outside of the Earth, or that Bill Burr when he moved to LA, that was part of the reason, was because of golf.
I will go with Bill Burr. That's the fake one.
Because I struggled so much while saying that. Clearly, Bill Burr hates golf. Him and that guy from Shark Tank, I forgot which one, but one of them really does not like golf.
Well, mine are kind of all different because I have 5 questions here. But the first one is more like a fill in the blank. I wanted to start off easy because I know that this is more about the game of golf.
Oh, no.
So the number of strokes an expert golfer is expected to take to a hole. Fill in the blank. What is that?
The par?
Yes, there you go. That's the first one.
Okay.
This next one is a Jeopardy style question. So for this one, 2 under par.
2 under, like a birdie or what?
No, it's an eagle.
Oh, okay. No, all right, yeah.
And then the next one is, was the format where players hit a shot, then play the next shot from the best ball position? Do you know it at all?
Does it say it in Wii Golf?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't say it in Wii Golf?
It's called a scramble. When you're playing with a ton of people, then you play from the best shot that was made during that time. It's the first time I did it, back in March. Now, true or false, the 19th hole is the clubhouse bar or lounge golfers visit after a round.
True.
Yes, it is true.
Yes.
And then the last one is multiple choice. You kind of talked about it. It's, what do golfers call a do-over shot that doesn't count against your score in a casual play? Mulligan, gimme, 4-ball, or best ball?
Oh, mulligan.
Yes, there you go. So you actually got 4 out of 5, or 3 out of 5, right?
Cool. So I'm hitting 600. This is back to baseball. Golf is also a growing sport. Something I didn't know was that post-pandemic, there's been this tailwind. Golf proved to be really easy, distance-worthy sport where people could spread out, Yes. And so it's really grown because of that. Also because of Topgolf, indoor sims, adventure golf. So it's not exactly surprising that they made a TV show about it. Also, women now make up 28% of U.S. on-course golfers, which is way up than where it used to
Yeah.
be. Yeah.
Right.
And so people are watching it, people are playing it. I still find it rather boring to watch. I don't understand the fascination with that.
I only started enjoying it when I started playing it, when I started to go to
That's what
Topgolf.
I've heard. I'm not like into it though. I guess I'm just watching people and being like, why? This isn't investing. This is lazy people. Like, I think I read one of the facts was that there was a guy who smoked like 60 or like a ton of cigarettes before a hole and still like finished 8 above or something. I don't even know what the terms mean, you know? Synopsis. A washed up professional golfer named Bryce Cahill, he's played by Owen Wilson. He takes on a teen golf prodigy played by Peter Dagger. His name is Santi in the show, Santi Wheeler, in the hopes of turning both their lives around because they're both dealing with trauma. We'll get into that. But the pilot is 45 minutes long. It shows Bryce is down on his luck. He's shacking up at his ex's old home while living paycheck to paycheck as a golf salesman slash coach and running grifts with his old caddy, Mitz, who's played by Marc Maron, for a little extra cash. Think about his grifts as in like a Better Call Saul style. We're going to make some money on the side by kind of scamming out rich people.
Kind of, even though it's way crazier in Dope Thief, like the first scene of Dope Thief.
Not exactly, because there's no guns here. He's just at a bar and he like works with Marc Maron, who pretends to like not like the guy, and they get some random individual to bet on him. I would not compare it to Dope Thief. That is the most this show gets to is like Ted Lasso-ish, like drama. It is not a deep show in the sense of violence. But anyway, so he gets his cash that way, and then he stumbles upon this 17-year-old golfer who's got a ton of raw talent, and he's just driving the ball on the driving range like crazy. He's not supposed to be there though. So then Santi doesn't really want a coach. He doesn't want to be doing tournaments. He doesn't really. His dad left a long time ago, so he doesn't really care about golf.
That was a little odd to me. Why exactly, if he doesn't care that much about golf, is he still doing it?
I think he enjoys it. He just doesn't enjoy the competition. The competition is the part that his dad ruined for him. And so Price spends the entire episode tracking the kid down, promising to make him into a big star. He puts everything on the line to convince not only Santi, but Santi's mom, Elena, to hit the road with him. But Santi's mom, Elena, throws a little like twist in there. She's like, I'll do it, but I need $100,000. Price says no problem. And then ironically, he has to go back to his ex-wife, the last person that you would think he would be able to convince, played by Judy Greer, who is perennially, I mapped it out, she's like done 5 ex-wife roles in her. She was the ex-wife in 2.5 Men.
Yeah.
That was the first time I think I saw her. Ant-Man, she's the main ex-wife. She's Scott.
That's right, yeah.
And in that, she was in Kidding. That was the Jim
Carrey
show. Yeah, she played his ex-wife. Reboot. That was a show that we reviewed with Keegan-Michael Key, but I don't think that was who she was the ex-wife of. And then now this. So she just plays that character, and usually the people are still into her, and so that's what's going on here.
I thought that you might say White House Plumbers because she was in that as well.
Was she the ex-wife, though, or was she just a wife?
I think she might have just been a wife.
Okay, so then he convinces her to give him the $100,000 to then give to Santi's mom. And he does this because Santi finally shows up and hits this ball into a dumpster far away. And she agrees that he's like got this excellent amount of talent. That's the pilot for you. And the undersurfing theme is that like he's lost his son. His son died. That's part of the reason he got a divorce. Price did. And Santi has lost his dad. So they're like going to make up for that kind of in a way.
Right.
Fit those puzzle pieces together.
The Jonathan Price thing, I'm sure we're going to get into. Wait, sorry, just the Price thing, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Jonathan Price is a different person.
I guess meant Price. It's kind of a little
Price
bit like
Cahill.
Cars, right? Because that was also Owen Wilson, but he's like past his prime.
Yeah, he's definitely past his prime. It's just weird because it looks like he's a younger version of himself. The most recent stuff I've seen with him is Loki and the Bob Ross. Both of his hairstyles were completely different than you've ever seen him in his career. And now he's back to this one, which is just classic Owen Wilson. So it's like he's went back a few years and suddenly you're seeing this guy. Anyway, so second episode comes along. It's only 25 minutes. Santi gets new clubs. That's one of the things that Price sets up for him. And then he also convinces Mitz, the guy played by Marc Maron, to borrow his RV and then eventually join the crew on their venture to go win all these tournaments. Santi has to learn that he does have a few flaws in his swing, more when he gets stressed than anything else. And that's the way that Price is going to help him. And then finally, Price gets arrested because of his parking tickets, which freaks out Elena, because she doesn't know why he gets arrested, she almost calls off the whole thing. But by the end of the episode, they work it all out and they're on the road.
Right. So I had a quick question because it seemed like they kept on changing the dire straits that Price was in. He has 32 unpaid parking tickets, like you're talking about, but then he's able to pay for Santi's clubs
I don't know
also.
if it was because he was lacking the funds to, because in the first episode, yes, we do see him going to his boss and asking for more money. But I don't ever get the sense that he was so, like, that he was afraid of losing everything. Like, his rock bottom is not, I'm going to end up on the street. It was more just like, this is going to inconvenience me. I'd rather just get high. So I think the reason he hadn't paid off those parking tickets was not because he couldn't, as much as he just
Didn't
couldn't
want
be
to.
bothered. Like,
Yeah.
who gets 32 parking tickets if they're really trying not to? No, he just doesn't care about certain things. And so that's part of the reason why Mitz has to be the one to drive them, because he realizes, if I give this guy my RV, it's going to be like trash by the end. So
What'd you think of Marc Maron? It's the first time he's been a regular in a show since Glow, which ended back in like
one of my
2019.
cons is I feel like he quit What the Fuck just so that he could do the show. Like, is he just going to do acting now? What is the deal with that? Why is he quitting Marc Maron?
I didn't get any information.
Okay, that
on
just like came out this week, so I was curious about that. Overall, he's just kind of a cliche grouch. But in the third episode, he gets stuck under a bed and he works things out with Elena. So let's just jump into that one. That one's called Daddy Issues. It's the first tourney. What's supposed to happen is that Owen Wilson's character Price is supposed to bring Santi out to this place just to get his feet under him. Not a competition he's supposed to win. But at the same time, Price thinks he's got so much talent that he bets like $500 on this guy, or $300. I forget which one. And in the first front 9 holes, right, Santi does terribly, and so Price gets a little freaked out that he's going to lose, that they're going to have to run, And so he tells Mitz that, like, yeah, we're going to have to get out of here. But then in the back 9, Santi turns it around, not because of anything that Price does. In fact, Price and him have a falling out. They're still not resolved by the 4th episode, which we haven't seen yet. But what does turn Santi into someone who can focus and win the rest of the game is a girl. He just falls in love in like 2 seconds because he's a 17-year-old kid. And so that's what he's motivated by. The bartender girl who has her break and then gets fired because she like pours a beverage on a guy.
I think you're talking about Zero.
Yeah, Zero. And so she's now part of the gang, and we haven't really seen how they're all going to function together, but it seems like it's going to be a wild ride. And in the end, it's a pretty inoffensive, straightforward Owen Wilson comedy.
Yeah, that was kind of my first question, which was, is there anything about Price that was different than any other TV show, specifically that Apple TV has done?
Well, with Shrinking, you have a guy who's dealing with grief because his wife died, and he acts kind of immature, and he does these, like, he tries to find people to connect to and improve his own life vicariously through them a bit. That's sort of what Owen Wilson is doing here. Ted Lasso, more into, like, he's more of a coach.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson is playing a coach. Like, that connection, I feel like, is the one that you're most talking
And
about.
you will see that every single article talks about Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
Like they can't help but compare to it.
It's not the same because it's not a team sport and there's less characters so far. And I feel like Ted Lasso had more of an interesting gimmick. This is so tropey. You got the protective single mother who also, like, the Spanish speaking, like, check mark. You got a sarcastic, grouchy best friend, the mentor student drama, the first love. But if you're a fan of Owen Wilson, I think you'll be okay with it.
Are you a fan of Owen Wilson?
Yeah, I mean, post, I think, You, Me, and Dupree, Owen Wilson, there was a span of movies in the mid to late aughts where I was just like, after Wedding Crashers, where I could take or leave it.
Yeah.
But since then, I feel like, or maybe since that movie where he was doing Facebook with Vince Vaughn, you know which one I'm talking about?
Oh, that's why the internship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think since then he's kind of done like interesting stuff, and this is just another kind of interesting thing that he's doing. Again, I'm not a big golfer either, so this is definitely watchable, but not one that I, again, would like run out and go see.
Owen Wilson, he did do some golf lessons. His family kind of grew up around golf. But my question was, even in shows like Mr. Throwback Bookie, Winning Time, and other sports comedies, you actually learn something about that business. And I was wondering if Stick did that for you.
It's a good question. Probably not that much. One of the cons that I have is that Owen Wilson, for being the coach, for being some superstar stud pro athlete that all went down like because of some YouTube video that showed him just like, I think he lost his son around that time, and that's what caused him to have like a nervous breakdown. But we don't see him ever swing the golf club Not once in 3 episodes. He is the coach to this guy, and there's so many times that he's trying to convince Santi to follow him, but you think that one of those times would be like, "Look, I'm not just some schmuck. I know how to hit a golf ball myself." And so I guess they're just saving that, but it feels like it's very obvious that he's not doing that in the practice sessions.
Well, that was my next question. How much golf is actually shown in the show? Because they did some pretty crazy things. They made a robot that could hit balls and also made drone balls that follow the ball in flight just
So
for
cool.
shots like
Yeah,
this.
a lot of the SFX, the sound effects that they do are overdone because like every time that Santi hits that ball, like it is a blast to the moon. That's how Owen Wilson's character Price originally even notices him. He's off on the other side of the course with some old lady teaching her how to golf, and then he's hearing these like whacks. And I know golf balls can be hit hard, but it's like every time. And so I do enjoy that. I do enjoy seeing the kids like, and I didn't realize they were real. I thought it was all like virtual effect
No,
or
it
something.
was real.
But that's actually the ball being hit and
Yeah.
stuff. That's really awesome. But I still think that Price needs to be doing that. Like, I don't think Owen Wilson would have signed up to star in a series like this unless he was like somewhat a golf fan. And so I would think that like he would want to be shown golfing. The other thing is that it reminds me a lot of that other movie that he did a bunch of years ago called The Big Year, where he was like a bird watcher. It's always like some weird niche thing that not necessarily people like to watch. Like a lot of people find watching golfing like watching paint dry,
Yeah.
but like that's something that people who are really into that sport love to do. And he was the best bird watcher for a while, and then he like competed against Steve Martin or something in that movie. So it's like Owen Wilson at this point in his career likes to pick random tiny things that he can kind of expand from when he's not doing a movie with Wes Anderson.
Well, the funny thing is that growing up he was always a lefty, but they
Oh,
only
interesting.
had righty clubs
That's
like
because
Luke
like
Wilson.
90% of golfers are, this is another fact that I learned, are righties, except when you go to Canada. In Canada, 30%, I don't know why, but 30% are lefties.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
as far as golf,
that's
golfing.
where Owen Wilson fits in because
He's Canadian?
well, no, he's not Canadian,
might
but
be, yeah.
he would have to shoot with righty golf clubs. He would have to shoot it that way, even though he was lefty. So
And they
he
couldn't
said,
show that, so that's why they just took it out of the show. This is the coach that never actually picks up a bat. It's funny, yeah.
"Do you know who Jason Keller is?"
No.
Jason Keller, he is the person that created this series. He is a playwright and screenwriter. He wrote the first 3 episodes. He's also written a couple screenplays, Mirror Mirror, Escape Plan, and Ford v Ferrari. That's kind of, similar in the sports.
I get it.
thing.
NASCAR is actually pretty big in golf. They've done, like, games within a NASCAR race before.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
this seems like the first TV show he's ever ran or created, but he has a ton of films in the works. He's directing his debut, which is set for filming in 2026. He's collaborating with Matt Reeves on another film. His Blacklist script he wrote in like 2006 is in pre-production with Liam
What
Neeson
is it?
attached. I don't know. They haven't said anything about it yet. And then he wrote a biopic that will star Hilary Swank. And those are 4 films that he has coming out in the next few years.
Right, and Ford vs. Ferrari was like a buddy-buddy thing too, where like one had to convince the other to come join up, and the grouchy one I would say is Christian Bale,
Christian
right,
Bale,
in
yeah.
that movie. So the tropes remain, and I think in this show he just kind of simplified things and said, hey, we know what audience we're shooting for here, and whether or not you like it is kind of based on if you depend on needing bloody, gory shows or something with like truly like off-the-wall stuff, there's plenty of other options out there at this point. But
Right, this is just supposed to
routine,
be feel
fun,
good.
6 out of 10 for me, watchable show. So that's where I'm coming from.
It has a 7.5 on IMDb with an 81% audience score.
That's not bad.
The funny thing about it was the first 5 reviews came out a couple days ago on Rotten Tomatoes. It had a 40%, and then it climbed up to 81%.
It's interesting. I remember Ted Lasso did something similar. I'm not sure if it started off as low, but it did take a while. Even for me, when we reviewed, I think like the 3rd episode
Yeah,
of...
That was a long time ago.
Was that the first season that we did the
Yeah.
3rd episode? Yeah, but it was like, oh, damn it, this show does have heart. I wanted to hate this show because the annoying first character and the fact that it was based on a small skit that they're just trying to extend for. But then I was like, yeah, but there was something about that character which you really do fall in love with at the end. Owen Wilson, you're not going to hate.
And that's what the Hollywood Reporter said. It said, Stick might already be the most pleasant trip you'll take all summer.
Yeah.
And then Collider said that it wears an enormous heart on its sleeve, and the series is more often at the risk of playing things safely, but the emotional beats are effective.
Yeah.
7 out
You
of 10.
could fall asleep to this, wake up, watch the last 2 episodes, and enjoy it just as much as probably if you watched the entire thing. Yeah, so take that for what you will.
The last fact I have is that initially the series was called Rambler and the Birdie Machine, but they changed it in
Good idea.
February 2025.
Yeah, I don't see that pulling in the mainstream crowd. Rambler and the Birdie Machine?
Rambler and the Birdie Machine, yeah.
Okay, so yeah. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.